So welcome back. When I was talking about going outside and enjoying the nice weather yesterday, believe it or not, it was 30 degrees warmer 24 hours ago than it is today. Um, so let's go through just a couple things here. The one where you do the lines and the rectangle and the 600-foot long line, I've got that due in like half hour, I think, 45 minutes. I think it's half hour. The next lesson is drawing 2D architectural objects, again, to get you familiar with the drafting tool. Some of them are skipped. So like when I went through there, if you look at Pete's notes, I have you skip some of them. So you're going to do more work than you need to if you ignore Pete's notes. And the reason I skip some of them, I'm like, yeah, I know how to do rectangles of certain dimension. I don't need to do 20 of them. Okay, so I did skip some of them just because as a person, I'm like, even if I know repetition helps you do it. So why are we learning these 2D drafting tools? Because you've already seen how easy it is to put the walls in and the doors, and those are a different tool set, right? Those are the 3D building information model elements. What I wanted to show you was in the real world, how we still use those drafting tools on a real project. So this is a project, Brennan headquarters up on French Island that I worked on. And I'm going to just pull it up, the Revit here, and show it to you. So just to give you an overview, that's the Revit file in 3D. And then this is like a site map with the contours. It's kind of on the water, it would be the east side of French Island. So that's kind of what it looks like down from the water. I don't have any renderings set up for this right now. But anyway, I wanted to show you a couple things. One is that, so if you look here, you can see on a building like this, you have a lot of plan views, you have a lot of 3D views, you have a lot of elevation views, you have section views, more section views, detail views. And then you have, believe it or not, drafting views, which is what we're working on when we do those elements in the assignment that we're scheduled to do today. Like, for example, a file cabinet or a coffee table. So I'm just going to go, let's look at base cabinet with drawers. So like when you cut through a base cabinet in Revit, it doesn't have any interior detail on it. It's just a box. It looks like a base cabinet in 3D, but it doesn't show like how it's constructed in the right dimensions and everything. So when you look at this thing here is just a drafting view where they're using the same tools, the line tools, like just drawing lines and rectangles like you would in AutoCAD and like you're doing in these first two chapters after the lake cabin. We were using that because that's the most efficient way to draft up this detail, is to just draw it up like it was if it was just with the 2D drafting tools. The other thing I wanted to show you was, so like you see all these details here, this is one sheet of just window details. And you can see the 3D details that showed all the flashing and all the various vapor barrier layers and how we make sure that no water gets into the building. I got one of these details blown up here. These are just, a lot of this stuff is just filled regions where it's a detailed line. It's not all drawn in Revit at that level of detail. If you looked at that in Revit, it would just show 2 or 3 lines coming down for the wall, a simple little rectangle for the window, no flashing, no insulation, no caulk, none of that stuff would be on here. Like this little flashing drip edge, that's just a detail element. This iron here, that's not a 3D, that angle iron that's holding up the masonry, that's all drawn with those tools you're gonna be learning in these two things. So you model the building in 3D in Revit, and then you go in and you use the detailing tools to draw the details exactly the way you want it to, like you were doing it in AutoCAD. Because in AutoCAD, you have complete control over exactly what you're drawing, what the line weights is. And as you're going to see in Revit, when you cut through these, they don't look like a wall section with this level of detail. Like they don't have the sealant and the backer rod on top of the window. That's not all modeled in Revit. That's somebody took the time to draw all that. So just to give you an idea of what one of these sheets looks like in the final here. So if you look at once it's on the title block, I'll pull up this detail sheet here. Okay, so these details then are all referenced into a sheet file, and then they've got keynotes that are keyed in. So you can see this is a massive amount of work. Now, when I say this was my project, I started this project and I did the whole building and got it set up, but I didn't do the plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and structural. Those were separate models that were XREF'd into it. And then also, it's impossible to do this much work as one person on a tight deadline as far as the architectural. So I was doing this as a design build where the contractor hired our architecture firm to work for the contractor, and they set the schedule. And the schedule was literally humanly impossible for me to do all the work. So we got a bunch of people helping me for like the last months trying to get this thing out the door and get all this work done. So I'm not telling you I drew every line on every sheet on this thing. It was my project, I started it, but I had a big team of people working on it with it. So you don't have to learn to do everything on these big projects by yourself. You just have to be part of a team and work on your assigned tasks. So I just wanted to let you know that you are not wasting time learning how to use these detailing tools in the book. So then if you look back at my, I'm gonna close this out here. If you look back on my agenda here, if you're following my schedule, these architectural objects are due again, roughly about the class of tomorrow. And then we're going to start working on the first floor plan on this book, this big house on the book. And I've given you 3 class days basically to work on that because we don't have class on Monday because it's Martin Luther King Day. I'm giving you Thursday to work on it, Tuesday and Wednesday. And the reason for that is we need to get, the first floor, because we use that as a base mark to copy it up to do the second floor in the basement. So we need to get that first floor dead nuts right before we copy it up to make the second floor and the first floor. So that's why I'm giving you 3 classes to work on it. It's not as simple as, you know, some teachers might give one lesson every day, and some lessons are really easy and some lessons are hard. I actually did the work and it took me longer, much longer to do that first floor. So I'm giving you 3 times as much as the simpler chapters. The last thing I would like to talk about is office cleanup. If any of the second year students left a bunch of garbage at your desk, let's go ahead and check your desk area there. If they've left anything, bring it up to me. If it's something they need, I will get it back to them or I'll send them an email. If it's something they don't need, we'll figure out what to do with it. But anything that's not yours at your desk, because you are the only people sitting at this desk right now. Now on Fridays, I've got other students coming in here. So if my second year students did leave something valuable, I want to find it now before I bring another program to this classroom. So that'll make sense. Okay, that's all I got for today. I'm gonna come around and see where you're at. Oh, we got a bunch of stuff.
I present them to you.
Okay, drop them on the floor. I'll have to sort through.
You want to stick it notes here? I don't know if these are.
Okay. I know exactly who's all this stuff is.
So do I. You want this?
This is a Minecraft. They were talking, they were gonna try to sell these on eBay. Like when they first came out, that people were paying more than nothing for them. Okay, so yeah, just dump it all in a pile right here. And I'll figure out what to do with it. Keyboard, where was that?
Oh, I've got stuff under the cashier's
Okay.
office.
It was underneath the. And I am gonna come around and see what page you're on in the book. And I did grade everything that was on my desk from about, I think I stopped grading around 11. So anything you turned in before 11 this morning has been graded.